Hello and welcome. I'm your host, attorney Nick Rosenberg, and you're listening to Reinventing, part of the Look Legal Pods from the law firm Nolan Hyman. Change is happening, everyone. Just take a look around us. Look at the technological changes that we've experienced in the last several years with AI. In this show, we're going to talk to people who've experienced changes, whether those changes are in their lives or in their professions, and learn about how they navigated those changes and not only survived, but thrived. Hey, so I'm here this time with my good friend, Marat Berenstein. Like the Bears. Is it like the Berenstein Bears?
It's exactly like the Berenstein Bears.
Is there controversy as to whether there's an A or an E? Have you heard about that whole thing?
Of course. I mean, sometimes I hear about it randomly with, like, if I'm eating out and I give the waiter my credit card, they'll come back to me and they'll be like, "Hey, have you heard about the Mandela effect?"
Yeah.
Well, so originally, here's the story. Originally, the founder, it has nothing to do with me, the founder of the brand, apparently his name was spelled with an A. He was an immigrant, and he had a teacher that wanted him to fit in, and the teacher made him change his last name from an A to an E, which is the more Americanized version of the same, I believe, German last name.
Yeah.
And then started the brand, and it became big, and we know it with an E because that's what the brand was started as. And then my understanding is that when he passed away, his family, who then took on the brand, changed it back recently to an A. And that's why we think it was always with an A when it was with an E.
That could be it, because that was one that I totally got, that Mandela effect thing. Like, not all of them I don't really have a recollection, or I haven't thought much. Like the Sinbad one, like, I don't know. I mean, that sounds vaguely familiar. But like the Berenstein one, I was like, oh yeah, it was Berenstein with an A. What gives? So no, I've been friends with Marat for a while. And we first connected. It was when my brother, Peter Rosenberg, was, I guess, sort of first getting on Hot 97. It might have even been before he was on the morning show on Hot 97.
He just started Sunday nights.
Yeah, I think he had just started on Sunday nights. So, you recognize the potential.
I think it was the potential, and then I think we started following each other on Twitter. This was the good, quote-unquote, good days of Twitter.
Good days of Twitter, right, yeah.
The good days of Twitter, and we connected on Twitter, and then I knew that you and Peter were brothers, and that you were a lawyer, and then I knew you were working with up-and-coming acts, especially young rappers and MCs, and I knew that there was like a direct line between you and your brother, so you were an obvious person to hit up, because I was managing, he's a dear friend of mine, his name is Najee, I was managing him as a rap artist. And I hit you up, and I was like, this is a 2-for-1 special. We need a lawyer, and we need to get on late night on 97.
100%. And we met up at a Starbucks by my office in Midtown, I remember.
We did. Yeah. Gosh, this was so long ago. This was such
like
a long time ago.
The early 2010s, probably, maybe late 2009s. I don't know. Late aughts.
I think so.
So here's what I remember from meeting you at that point. You were working with Najee. You were working with a producer, right? But at the same time, what was the producer's name?
He went by DB2. His name is
DB2, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And he graduated from Clive Davis Institute.
Right. He graduated for Clive Davis Institute. And I remember one of the first times we got together, you brought me over to the Clive Davis space at NYU.
That's right. The old space.
Well, first off, I want to rewind even further. Marat works in the music business. Everybody in the business knows him, right? I mean, you get the best people. Like, you seem to know everyone. He just sort of looked at me askance when I said that, but he knows. But what was it that made you want to be in the music business? And I don't mean from a business standpoint as much as what was the music, what was the experience, what was the thing that made you say to yourself, I want to be around music, I want to be around art, I want to be around creatives, I want to be around people that I think are making cool shit happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I didn't get a chance to pursue my own creativity as far as school went. I was sort of an immigrant kid in math and science. That's where you find immigrant kids. You're not going to find immigrant kids in like the theater program typically in school, right? That's really a parental push to pursue something that's going to be stable.
Right.
But I think when I was in college, I was around a lot of people, and my friends had a band, and I loved their music. And then couple that with the fact that I grew up on MTV, I'm that generation, and I was just enamored by all things pop culture. Hip hop was the most entrepreneurial thing happening in music, with the rise of companies in the 90s and that kind of, and the moguls, right? Which are too problematic to talk about today, some of them. Literally today, so I'm not going to do it. You know exactly who I'm talking about. And others. And I started just like, I don't know, I think I was answering the question of how can I be a part of it? I wasn't good enough to play as good as my friends were at their instruments.
Well, did you play anything? Did you play any instruments?
Trombone when I was a kid in school.
No kidding. Okay. I don't think I ever heard of
it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. It was just a school thing. And then, I meet people in college who are really good at instruments and are really good at songwriting. And like, we love their songs. And the girls we're trying to hang out with love their songs. And I'm like, wait, how do I? And I'm like, oh, I'm sort of like, I fit into this like perfect image. You said Berenstein earlier. Yeah. I kind of fit into this perfect image of an artist manager. Right. Without knowing anything, that was enough for me to say, hey, can I help? How can I manage you? Or can I manage you, right? And they said yes, and these are just like the homies in college. And so we went on a quick run of like a few months. And I think once we booked our first show outside of campus, the band fell apart. So check mark. That was my first
like
managerial.
Outside of campus, the pressure was just too much.
The pressure. We went downtown. And it was just bad.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, no one knew what they were doing. We were kids in college. We had no guidance. I was not at a program that fostered and supported and empowered this. If one of our students at the Clive Davis Institute is like, hey, I'm managing a band and they're falling apart, they have a number of people that they can talk to and get a little advice, get a little wisdom. I had none of that. We went to like regular college.
What college did you go? What college did you go to? Remind me. If you do.
Columbia, the engineering school of Columbia, undergrad. Yep.
Right. There wasn't a big artist management program in that.
No, not at all. I was procrastinating and not doing my statistics homework.
Right. You know what's funny? It's funny about management is like, cause like I think my first job in the music business was like management also, right? Like was working with some artists that Peter had been working with in the DC area. Among them Odyssey, who's like gone on to be like,
Right. Yeah, of course.
Pretty major guy. But like, it's funny.
That's how I started. Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody can be a manager. And I'm not taking anything away from you or me or other guests that I've had that's what they started. But it's like, it's sort of like, a lot of people, I think, get into it like that. They're like, an agent, you have to like get a job at like a company, right? But a manager, it's like you can get in and start stuffing envelopes, right? Or making phone calls or, selling merch or whatever it is. And like, you can then be a manager.
You could be a roadie in your managing, So that was kind of that. And then I graduated and I really didn't want to like apply or do a regular job for some reason. I was lucky enough that I was able to move back home with my parents. They live in New York, and I was like, all right, let me explore what we can do.
Where in New York? Brooklyn.
Right? Yeah. And so a few months out, I got this email from Columbia, from the Columbia Career Center, where I was involved with the Career Center as a student. Just knew the folks over there, knew the administrators over there, and they sent me an email, and it was, it said a famous Columbia alum is looking for a personal assistant, someone that you would travel with. They didn't mention anything that like would indicate what type of work or industry. Famous Columbia alum is looking for a recent Columbia alum to work for them as their personal assistant, and it didn't say who or what, right? And so of course I apply. And long story short, a week later, I learned the famous Columbia alum is Art Garfunkel of Simon & Garfunkel. And the administrator that sent over that email put me at the top of the submission list. And I think I was the first call he made. And he hired me on the spot. And I went from a band that couldn't make it past like Morningside Heights to working with a literal legend.
Like a literal legend. Like you kind of look like, you kind of look like Art Garfunkel a little bit too. Like there's like maybe a little resemblance. which is
listen,
good.
you see a
Because
pattern.
he was the good-looking one. He was the good-looking one. That's why Paul Simon couldn't stand him.
I'll
Right?
take it, and now you see a pattern. We're 2 for 2. Get in where I fit in, right?
Right, exactly. That's now I'm sure we could do a whole podcast just talking about Art Garfunkel, but we're not gonna.
Gosh. So that was really the start, and really my education, my boot camp, came from working with Art Garfunkel and his team, because we did a Europe tour. We toured
Wow.
the States a number of times. I got to see what touring looked like at a high level. I got to be around professional musicians. I got to be around other touring professionals, such as lighting directors and sound folks and tour managers, right? And then like I had to tour manage at a certain point in the tour because our tour manager wasn't available for some reason, right?
Right.
So I got to learn a lot. I got to see a lot of cities and countries I would have never gone to. I got to see a lot of cities and states I would have never gone to.
Right,
because
I'm sure.
He was booked as a variety act, and so his team at William Morris at the time believed, because this was solo, this was just Art solo, right?
Right.
And so we played certain cities where we played venues like the equivalent of our Carnegie Hall.
Right.
With the full orchestra, right? Like Art, his band, and an orchestra. And so that was like quite cool. And then some cities it was just like Art and his band, and we rocked it. But we did festivals, we did all kinds of things, and then I got a chance to do one Simon and Garfunkel gig. They're not together, you know,
Right.
obviously, and they got together for this one thing. It was the Katrina relief show.
Right.
At the Garden. So this kind of places it on a timeline of where we are. So I got to see them do 3 songs and raise money for Katrina, and I got to see that side of it, and that was even higher level, right? Simon and Garfunkel is like highest level. And
Highest
level, and then you have Art solo, which is still pretty high level compared to where I'm coming from, right? You're talking about 2,000 to 5,000 seat rooms, right? Art
Right.
solo. Simon and Garfunkel together, those are arena shows, right? And you know, the last time they did that was, gosh, I think 20 years ago, 2004.
Yeah.
So that was my start, and that's kind of like being around them and being around Art. I got to learn about sync. I mean, their music has been synced in some of the most iconic films and television shows and commercials, and like we can name movies like that their music has appeared in, right? So I got to learn a little bit about licensing, just like, oh my God, wait, this is a thing. I got to learn about touring. I got to learn about record sales, right? They never had a problem with that. I got to learn about all kinds of things. So that was really my personal Clive Davis Institute. That's how I learned.
Right.
I'm not saying I understood it and knew how to be fluent in any of those things, but I got to hear about a sync that generated $1 million, and I was like, oh my God.
Right.
That's
That's
a
like
thing.
real money.
That's
Yeah.
real money. I mean, but that's in their world, right? You're not going to see that below that, right? So
No, right. It's not like you're not like if you get a music bed on like the Real Housewives of Oklahoma City, like you're not going to
slightly
get
different,
$1 million.
but
But-
that gave me a lot of empowerment to be like, all right, look, if I start managing artists, I don't think we're going to reach the level of $1 million syncs. I mean, you have to be a legend to get that. But we can make a living, and so that's how we started. And so I started managing Najee, I started managing Danny, and he was the producer and the sort of music director. Najee was the lyricist and rapper, and we got a lot of syncs. We got a
Right,
lot of
I
syncs.
remember.
We never did $1 million. Again, not many do, but we got a lot of syncs. We got a lot of movies and television shows and cool video games, and that was like. That became a thing. That became our avenue.
Right. And you
Yeah.
didn't you do syncs at Decon?
I
Am
did.
I making that up?
No. I did. I had an arrangement with Decon, which is currently Mass Appeal Records.
Right.
And I was based out of Decon, and I generated syncs for the Decon roster at the time.
Right.
And that was my so I wasn't employed by Decon. I was sort of operating from the office, and I worked with the label on doing all their sync for the time that I was there. And that was quite fruitful. Those were a lot of sync friendly artists.
Let's just you know what? What is a sync?
What is a sync? A sync is when a piece of recorded music gets placed on with a visual in on a timeline, right? So
Right.
it is music synchronized to a visual in time. And so when that happens in our world, as you know, Nick, It is subjective. It is negotiable. I mean, to the extent of what the budget allows. But it could be great money. It could be great money for the artist. It could be great money for the songwriter. It could be great money for the producer. It could be great money for everyone involved.
For everybody. And there's music in literally everything all the time, right? These
Totally.
syncs are always happening. So every show that you see, when you hear a little bit of music, there was a sync. There was a license that was negotiated. Unless it's like you happen to turn on a basketball game and you hear, you know, Mo Bamba playing in the background. That might not be a sync. But
still a sync.
Right.
Technically speaking, still a sync. It's a different way they arrived at it, but
well, no, I mean if like you heard it in the arena, like you just heard it as background noise, right? If they're playing it as a music bed, you know, going into a commercial.
Sure. So that was my to sort of go to what we thought we would talk about today. That was my act as a manager at the time, right? I was heading out to LA once a month. I was spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, building relationships, some of which I have to this day, and some of them became really good friends of mine, but all the music supervisors out there.
Right, I remember.
A lot of music supervisors are in LA, well, TV and films mostly in LA. And there's a few here in New York, there's a few kind of scattered throughout the States, but it's like 90% of the
90%.
music supervision community is LA based. And so I spent a lot of time going to LA, building those relationships, coming back, generating syncs for my artists. That would then create streaming opportunities, right? Because that was like sort of the rise of Shazam, and now we're fully in the streaming universe with Spotify coming in full, right? As far as like usage goes. And so these syncs are kind of doing a lot for us, right? Like it's a cool little placement on maybe like an MTV show or a cool video game, and then someone looks it up, and then now they're streaming the music. And so that was our means to an end, if you will. And at some point, as I was doing that, I knew the folks over at the Clive Davis Institute at the time. And they asked me if I would want to come in and start teaching a little bit. And I said, sure, even though I had absolutely...
So tell me, what is, I mean, we know, hopefully we know who Clive Davis is. What is the Clive Davis Institute? Tell me about that for a second.
Yeah, the Clive Davis Institute is a 4-year undergrad Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree program at the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU. It's been around for about 21 years. Mr. Clive Davis, who's 93 years young, endowed the program, and it continues to.
Is that in the? Do you have to say 93 years young? Is that in like the brand guidelines?
It is in the brand guidelines. Yes.
Like
if I don't say it, this podcast interview ends immediately. I mean, God bless. I say it just because that's yeah.
I know.
And so it's the second music program at NYU. There's a program that's been around over at Steinhardt that's been around for 50 years. And that program is more like the sort of traditional schools we know about, such as Berkeley, such as USC, such as Frost, such as Belmont. Those schools are pretty much in the same category where their approach is conservatorial, and they have business programs and technology programs and all kinds of great programs. Our approach is slightly different. We're looking at students as far as what type of creative entrepreneur are they, right? So most of our incoming students are artist entrepreneurs, producer entrepreneurs, songwriter entrepreneurs, performers, DJs. And then sort of in the minority of our classes, we have the couple of people who would kind of be like you and I, who would be like, yo, I want to manage people, right? Like I'm going to fit in that way, right? And then they have all the resources of the Institute. So we have a few kids who are journalists. We have a few kids who are trying to make a social impact. We have a few kids who are trying to be managers and then end up getting jobs in the business. But I would say the majority of our students would be forward-facing artists, producers, performers. And we have a lot of great alums out there that we're very proud of. Grammy winners, Coachella performers, all kinds of people. Our most visible alum is Maggie Rogers. But we have so many more. I mean, you mentioned Mo Bamba. Take a Day Trip. The producers of Mo Bamba are alums of the program.
I don't think I knew that Take a Day Trip were alums of the program, actually.
There we go.
So you knew the people there, right?
Knew some of the folks there, and they said, hey, how would you like to come help us out and teach? We have a high school program that needs a teacher. And so I said, sure. And then I was immediately terrified. I'm like, what am I doing in front of kids? I don't know anything. I mean, this wasn't even imposter syndrome. This was like, I don't know anything.
It was just like full on imposter.
Just imposter. Yeah, there's no syndrome involved. I don't know anything.
But you actually did. That's the thing. So you
I
say
did
that
know.
we joke, but you didn't think that you knew necessarily, but you knew
Well,
a
the
lot
way I
more than
looked
you
at
think
it,
you did.
yes, thank you. And the way I looked at it is, I was younger than I am right now, and so I was just like, look, you know what? I might not be the expert. I might not be the veteran. I've been a few steps ahead of you guys, so I can just talk about that, right? And so that gave me the fuel to
It's a great
show
way
up
to
and
think.
teach,
It's
to
a
show
great
up
way
and
to think
teach a
about it.
room. Thank you. Yeah, and that's kind of how I
Right?
always looked at
It's
it.
like I know that you don't know how to get from where you are to where I am. Right? I might know how to get from where I am to where Clive Davis is. But I don't have to worry about all that today. All I need to worry about is getting you from where you are to where I am right now. And that I'm confident I can do.
Absolutely. That was a very eloquent way of putting it too, better than I did. And so that's kind of how I looked at it. And then I started teaching the first high school program in 2012, and then I immediately caught the bug, and I said, "Hey, can I teach more?" And I started teaching more. And over the course of the 8 years that I was there, I ran both of our high school programs. I taught classes on licensing, on sync. I taught classes on management.
And the high
I
school
sort of
program is Future Music Moguls, right?
That's the free program that meets
Yeah.
in the spring, and then we have a summer high school camp that we're
Right.
just about to welcome and start this year's program. And so both of those programs are really cool in that they serve as pipelines. So we have students that we met in those programs that then go on to do the 4-year undergrad. And so some of these students we know for 6-7 years, and that's
That's
really
so
really
cool.
cool to see their growth and development. But yeah, I left. My sort of claim to fame is I would wrangle people to come in and come speak. You came a bunch of times. One of the people I helped get to come speak was Pharrell Williams, and we went
To
viral.
be
And
clear, you
so
got Pharrell because I was not available, right?
you
That's what
were
it
busy
was.
that day. You said, "Look,
Right,
I can't
right. So
come. See if you can hit P," and I did.
so you were
And
like, I was like, I'm sure he's not got nothing to do. He'll be interesting also.
yeah, totally, totally. And so we went
So you
viral. And
you got Pharrell. So how did you go viral?
um, we did a master class. We paired Pharrell with one of our faculty members, Bob Power, which is
Oh, Bob
incredible.
Power.
Bob
Former
Power.
client of mine, actually, Bob Power.
Really great,
Yeah.
small world. Yeah, and Bob, of course, comes from the world of a Tribe Called Quest. So he's known Pharrell, who's been around those guys since Pharrell was the age of our students, right?
Right, right.
And so the idea was we do a master class. This was really like before everything became a master class. This was like before the company master class even existed. And so we're going to do a master class. Pharrell's going to give our students feedback. And so we have an internal process for how we go about sourcing the students. And so we went through that process, and then 3 students were selected. 3 different kinds of artists were selected to play Pharrell music in the studio with Bob. It took place on a Saturday, so my Future Music Moguls got a chance to be there as well and experience it. And we put cameras on it, and it ended up going on Pharrell's YouTube channel, where it still lives. And one of the students that played Pharrell music was Maggie, and she played him a brand new song that no one had heard. She just finished it. It wasn't out. It wasn't even like done. It wasn't even like mixed
Right.
or mastered. She just wanted feedback. And so he loved it so much that ironically he gave her no feedback, right? And that's the whole moment. That's the sort of, he turned to her and he said, "I have no notes." And that moment, and this song being awesome, went viral. We didn't cause it to go viral. We didn't think it would go viral. We saw it in the room as it happened. We thought it was really, really cool and special, but we have cool and special moments that happen every single day. Just, they're not on camera, and they're not with Pharrell Williams, right? And this moment was just really, really special. It sort of, when the video came out, it immediately, we saw that the needle was on that timestamp where she's playing him the song. We saw that that's all that's in the comments. We saw that that's where everyone's going, and no one's watching the rest of the video.
Right, sure.
To this day, I don't think anyone has seen the rest of the video. It's like a half-hour video. And then a couple of months later, just like a day or 2 after Maggie graduated, which is just, the timing couldn't be more ideal, right? Someone posted the video on Reddit, and they said that Pharrell cried. He didn't cry, but that's what the headline said, and everyone clicked on it, and that's when it went like viral, hitting millions of views in one day.
Wow.
And so look,
That's
that
so
put
cool.
literally put Maggie on the map, right? Because now the entire industry is just like going after her. And then she ended up doing everything correctly, and she licensed her music to the labels and the publishers, and she's done it
And
all right.
she's
And
Mage.
very, yeah, I mean, she was in the best new artist category at the Grammys, and she lost to Billie Eilish, right? And the others in that category were Lizzo and Little Nas X, right? So
Right.
put her
Sh-
in that, you know what I
She's all
mean?
right.
Like
She's
that's
all right.
yeah, she's all right. But what the other thing that it did is it put this little tiny program that's been like screaming at the top of the mountains. We're like this industry program and we're so cool and different and entrepreneurial, and boom, it puts us on the map. So now the whole industry knows who we are. And now they're interested in
But they didn't.
engaging with our
They
students.
didn't know. They didn't know before who you were. I mean, it's called the Clive Davis School.
Yeah, but now there's money to be made.
Right. Right.
Right? Now they're like, oh, the Clive Davis School just produced a proper star.
Right. And it's not like, oh, the Clive Davis School, we'll do them a favor and show up and do blah blah blah. Now they see what the value add is, right?
Absolutely.
It's like,
Absolutely. And remember, every company but one gets to say they missed out on engaging and signing and working with Maggie, right?
right,
Every company
right,
but one will have
right.
that chip on their shoulder, right? So every
And
company
then
but one on the label side, and then every company but one on the publisher side will then
see,
be like, "Oh, we missed out.
it's
We
funny,
couldn't."
like
Yeah,
so many moments, just sidebar. It's like, I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's like a lot of the times in life, I feel like it's the moments, the things that you miss out on that make you want the next thing,
sure,
and that make you
sure.
chase after it, right?
Sure, sure. So that kind of became our thing, and then I was there for another 2 years, and then 2018 rolled around, and just the best way I can put it, it was just my time to go. It was a great 8 years. It was a great run. We did all we could. I did all I could. I thought it was just my time to go. And while I was working at the Clive Davis Institute at that time, I was managing, right?
Right.
I'm now managing other clients. I'm now working with someone called Matt FX. And
Yep.
then we started
Shout out
working with
Matt
you.
FX.
Shout out
Yep.
Matt FX. We started working with you officially as well. You joined the team. And so now I'm doing more and more in management. And so I think I'm leaving this to just do one thing. What I really didn't realize would happen was once I left Clive, I really didn't last managing very long after that. I kind of just timed out, and I just woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was literally the opposite feeling I had when I wanted to do it back in college. And so I stopped
It's
managing.
a, it, but it's like a hustle, man. Like 15, 20%, 25%, whatever you want to call it. Like, gosh, somebody needs to make a lot of money, and it needs to be consistent for that to be worthwhile. It's a struggle. I mean, it's not.
You need luck. It's one of the things where you actually need the variable of luck to do well,
Yep.
right? And so I left and I said, you know what, let me pursue other opportunities. Let me consult. Let me try to find an adult job somewhere in tech. And then I just sort of went on a search, I guess, maybe soul searching as well as job searching. And so I ended up doing a number of things. I worked for an audiophile app called Rune.
I remember. I was thinking
I
about that the
worked,
other day.
yeah, yeah. I worked for spent a year working in Saudi Arabia on building their
What?
music education
You worked in
initiatives.
Saudi Arabia. That's
I
wild to me.
I
That's
worked in
another
Saudi.
podcast, also. I mean, like, just to
That's
talk
another
about Saudi
episode.
Arabia.
Let's bookmark those two. We're going to come back for
Yeah.
another Garfunkel episode, and I'm going to come back for a Kingdom of Saudi Arabia episode.
You did now.
um,
You never went with Art Garfunkel to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
no, no, no. Gosh, the way things are heading there, they might just book him and invite him. So
Right.
very quickly for the listeners, very quickly, 2022 was year two that music and pop culture and movies and things that we would categorize under the category of tourism, such as sports and
Right.
wrestling and F1 and golf, were allowed and empowered and boosted in the sense that the country was spending unlimited money on building those things out. right? They went from just 0 to 100.
Right,
And they
like literally starting a golf league.
literally,
Yeah.
literally, how about this? Literally building a music venue.
Right.
There were no music venues there, right? Think of it like that, right? And so a lot of this has to be hired out and deployed. And I was part of this global team that got to work on a 3-day music education conference because they don't have an NYU Tisch, they don't have a USC, they don't have a Berkeley. They will. That's all probably coming soon. But we had to build a space for music education. And look, we flew people out, we put people up, and my broader team built what I think is probably the world's largest music festival. And both the conference and the festival since 2022, that was the year I was there, have gone on and just only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger every year, right? Because every year they're getting more and more things. They just want people to come and enjoy the country and think of them when we think about where to go for cultural tourism, for fun, for music, for that kind of stuff. So that was 2022. 2023, I did a little work on the education side with Tidal, the streaming service, and then I was sort of planning out my 2024 and just lining up projects, and I was thinking about coming back to teaching. And what I didn't know would happen kind of happened. Clive Davis Institute, which I was still considered like still a part of in a sense, right? Because now my former students are like becoming my friends, and I know all the teachers, and I'm still following along, right? Like I want them to do well. It's fam. And so Nick Sansano becomes chair. He's been with the Institute since day one, literally built it. And so this was his turn in the leadership position. And he comes from the world of Public Enemy and the Bomb Squad. And so he became chair. The school was approaching its 20th anniversary. And so he gave me a call and he said, "What are you doing? And why don't you come back home? And we're going to create this role for you." And the role is partnerships and industry relations. So it's non-curricular. I am now
perfect for Reinvented. I mean, they invented a role for Marat.
That's it. Yeah. And so we're still inventing it in the process. The role becomes official this September.
And what's it called? Partnerships and?
So its current title is Strategic Partnerships and Industry Relations. And I've been working in it for about a year and a half. It's been going well. We turned 20 and then we turned 21. And so we playbooked what we did with Pharrell. We created multiple residencies from artists to producers to executives. We brought in a historic number of industry guests this past year because we as a program grew. The Institute moved into a big location in Brooklyn. The biggest location we've had with 4 stunning recording studios, everything you can think of as far as equipment goes, from gear to microphones. We even have the Beastie Boys studio, like in full. They donated oscilloscope, which used to be in downtown Manhattan.
Right, yeah.
Rather than shutting it down, they donated it to us. So
you just basically moved all the stuff and made it like the room that they had in downtown Manhattan and relocated it to
Correct. I mean, to the point where the board had to be craned in through a building window. The building is really special, has a lot of New York City history. It's the former MTA headquarters. That's so cool. There's a Clive Davis gallery in the building that's open to the public. There's a venue in the building that our students use and we use. It's the former loading dock for, I guess, the money train, where they used to bring the money through pre-Metro cards.
Right.
So we got this beautiful building. We're turning 20, and we have a new leader. And so I come back. So this is one of those times where, you leave a job and you don't think you'd be back. But this incredible moment came about, and I couldn't say no. And the opportunity was just too cool to pass up. I immediately, Nick and I were on the same page. Nick Sansano, our chair, and so we were like, let's have some fun. Let's welcome everyone back, because we're also coming out of 2 to 3 years that I'm just gonna go on record and say were pretty miserable if you were at school. Right, and I'm talking about the Zoom years of 2020, 21,
right, sure.
When COVID hit. So I wasn't at NYU, but I got to see what was happening at NYU, and those were not fun years. You sort of
got out at a good. You sort of like your hiatus was sort of at a great time. You didn't
Perfect
realize
timing. I remember thinking, "Gosh, I don't want to be teaching during this time. It's soul crushing." Right? And so this building wasn't being used, right? These studios weren't being used. These spaces weren't being used. And so that became part of the impetus to to create this role that I've been working in. And so it's been really, really great. We've done a lot of fun things. There's a lot of great things we're looking forward to in the next year and in the coming years as well, as we're growing and just kind of, yeah, it's been really, really fun. It's been fun.
So that would make me think the fact that the Clive Davis Institute has continued to invest and invest more in educating, and forging young minds, if you will, that kids still want to work in the music business, right? Because
applications are through the roof, Nick.
Yeah, because I'm always concerned. I was saying to my last guest that I have this concern that kids aren't as into music as they used to be, or in the same way, because there's so many other draws on their attention, right? Like they can be into games or TikTok videos or whatever weird content, and I don't know, I feel like culture when I was growing up, when you were growing up, was culture and music were sort of tied together. Now I feel like you can you can have an identity without music being tied to it, right?
Totally.
You can be goth, but that's not tied to music per se, which I always find kind of weird because it's no, what do you mean you're dressed like that? And it doesn't mean you like a particular kind of band. So what does that do?
Well, remember, I talk to, you're a parent. I talk to parents all the time, right? And in this role and in my previous role, when I work with the high school programs especially, and after 21 years and after seeing Maggie and Take a Day Trip and so many others, right? I sort of liken it to college sports. And I say, look, think of us as a D1 championship program. Think of us as UConn, right?
Right.
If you want to think about who we attract, right? There's no people that are just oh, I'm a hobbyist at basketball and then end up playing for UConn. No, these kids, these men and women who end up at UConn, they've been playing and training since they were children.
Right. That's all they want to do. Right. Yeah.
So we attract the equivalent in music. And remember, we are international, so it's not just limited to the States. So we can attract students from, well, I don't know how that's going to go with current state of affairs, but we have always been international. And so the kids that are applying, these are beasts. These are killers, right? The competition is so crazy because they're so good. They're so good.
Are most of the musicians, singers,
Yes.
songwriters, what have you,
Yes.
who also are interested? They don't want to just go to conservatory though. They want a more a wider.
Wider's good. We are a holistic program, so everyone has to take everything. If you're a business kid, you're still taking critical listening, you're taking music theory, you're taking production. If you're an artist, you're taking the business courses, right? And so then you can kind of go down a rabbit hole and take the more advanced versions of what you want to do, and then you're graduating still as an entrepreneur, right? You're like, hey, I'm going out into the real world and here's my business and my brand and I need help. And so we have a mechanism for that. We call that professional development, and my role engages with that quite often. And that really just means bringing in great people such as yourself, such as a lot of our friends who work at the great companies, from streaming services to distributors to labels and publishers, and just having them be around our students, having them give them honest feedback, having them find interns, right? And so we find that careers really are built in that grind.
Right. And I would imagine, for all the people that from the industry and work with and the companies that are involved, being around young people, young, diverse, creative people, there's so much opportunity in that. One of the things that I think that people don't realize, or all the stuff that we're talking about with DEI now and the blowback, it's forget about the equity piece, right? Not that I want to forget about that, but diversity and inclusion makes organizations function better, right? Having
100%.
diversity in terms of backgrounds, economic background, ethnic background, age, what have you, those ideas make things work better. That's the premise of the United States, but it's we've gotten so caught up, or not us, not you and I, but other people. It's like they've lost sight. There was a reason why companies jumped onto this, and it wasn't just because they were trying to be, PC, right? No, it's good for Coca-Cola. It's good for the Army.
For sure.
Not to turn this into politics. This is not a politics.
No. But if you
show,
think about
if
you think about music, it's a collaborative process. Right? Songwriting, producing, engineering, performing, these are collaborative processes, right? What can make collaboration better than diversity.
100 million%.
Nothing.
Well, I'm going to ask you another thing. Okay, so you were at Clive Davis before, and you're there
Yeah.
again now. What are some of the challenges, whether it's post-pandemic, post-academia blowback, what have you, that you're dealing with now that maybe you weren't dealing with before, or maybe that you were dealing with before, in education, and in particular education, music education and music business education? Anything sort of jump out at you?
You just said, let's not get into politics, so I'll just quickly mention it. The big elephant in the room is the biggest challenge. If you get anyone who works at any private education program on your podcast, they will tell you that the biggest challenge right now is what's happening with this administration versus all of these schools, including NYU. That's the big one. We'll leave that.
Right, the idea that money, the fact that money could be cut off by the federal government, who funds all these big institutions, that affects everybody at these institutions, the students, the faculty, every department, every program, whether it's music business or farm animals.
Correct. That, the loss of money, and then the loss of international students. Those two things will literally destroy the education system, right? We'll leave that at that because we don't know what's going to happen and we don't have any answers for it either. As far as the music business and music education goes, we've seen so many shifts, right? And so we saw the shift to the streaming era. We saw the shift from the blog era into the streaming era, where like a lot of blogs are now sort of playlists, right? And that kind of, we saw that shift, right? And now we're witnessing a really crazy shift. And the crazy shift now is a lot of the value is no longer with the labels. The majors are fine. They're literally becoming financial mechanisms, right? They're offloading humans. They're offloading humans and they're acquiring catalog. Yesterday's Warner announcement was that they are acquiring a lot of catalog for a lot of new money that they just raised, and that they're also letting go of a lot of humans, right? So they're doing two things. And if Warner's doing that, then Sony's going to do it. Universal's going to do it, right?
And that's going to extend to A&R, to the extent that A&R is not already just looking at, isn't just Moneyball, right?
Sure.
It'll be even more Moneyball, and you just are acquiring things, buying low, selling high. That's the end of it,
And that's the shift. But buying low and selling high, that's only available to entities that have the funds to do that.
Right,
we're talking
of course.
about small labels, we're talking about indie artists, right? So all of that value now, I think, shifts from the streaming services, because the streaming services are massive corporations as well, right? We're talking about Apple, we're talking about Spotify, we're talking about Amazon, right? The real value now lives with the distributors, and this is just my opinion, right? So I think the A&R now is happening at the distribution level, which everyone now still has access to. So now you have different distributors that are kind of functioning more in the way that labels used to function.
It's funny, my last guest was JJ Jensen from Foundation, who I know you've met before.
Sure.
And we talked about, what distributors do and what he does and how he uses it. But it's like, look, we talked about Ghazi. I mean, look at Ghazi, right? He's on the cover of Billboard. I mean, he's like the toast of the industry, right? And he runs one of the biggest digital distribution platforms,
which now functions like one of the coolest labels to exist, right? And so he's a great example of this.
I'm glad you said that, because I haven't really thought about that. And like, that's a good, the reinvention of the music business, like shifting from labels to distribution. Yeah.
And then there's the other shift that we're seeing, which you just mentioned, is that we're seeing a lot of veteran A&Rs leaving the label system, right? Because what they do is no longer the sport that the labels are playing in, right? The labels want quick burns, right? And that's your money ball on the sort of on the frontline end. And then they want passive income, and that's your money ball on the catalog end, right? So they actually do not need the kinds of A&Rs that found artists and developed artists like Bruno Mars, Lizzo,
right?
Those people are no longer, their services are like, hey, thank you for your service. Here's your retirement package. No longer needed, right?
What about the A&Rs?
What it feels like.
What about the A&Rs at places like Alamo or 300 or, you know, I don't want to say 10K, right? Because that's basically Atlantic at this point, right?
Yeah.
But like the younger kids who were like finding these new, mostly rappers and signing them, there seemed to be some A&R in that. A lot of it was numbers, but there seems to be something a little bit more to it.
I think you're right, and that's a great point. And I want to say that that's coming still through the distribution side, right?
Right.
Everyone you just named, they have a distribution division, and
Right.
they're watching that division, and that's not hard to watch. You don't need to be out. You don't need to go see someone play a club. You don't need to just like meet someone in the studio. You're just pulling up an analytics thing on your email or on your app, and you're like, hey, what's at the top of this chart that is our own distributor, right? It's our own minor league, if you think about it.
Right, it's funny, and like the labels minor league sometimes won't even be using the label system to distribute, right? The distribution might run through Empire or through Orchard, which is always sort of, I'm like, but it's sort of a farm team for the label now.
And it's like, the thinking is, let them absorb 100% of the risk.
Right. Do it all.
So now as a label, you have no risk, because to be a great A&R, you had to risk it all. You had to say that this thing that is weird to everyone is not actually weird. It's genius. And then
give them $500,000, right? And a $500,000 budget.
And then when the whole world goes, holy shit, they're not weird at all, they're genius. you look like a genius, right?
Right.
And we know those folks. We know those folks. We're friends.
1 out of 30. But the problem is, it's like 1 out of 30 times everybody says you're a genius, right? And then the other times, you just blew $1 million. Okay, tell me about 3 different things that you've been listening to, why you're listening to them, why you're into it.
I'm going to open Apple Music.
That's fine. I don't expect... People ask me this question all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. What do I listen to? Like Public Enemy? Like, I could say that at any point.
Okay. Listening to the new Clips.
The new Clips isn't out. You mean the whole album's not out, or do you have it?
Whole album's not out yet, but still listening and listening with anticipation.
I'm excited about that. I just saw the track listing for it. And
I'm very excited.
So we'll do this. Tracks.
Yeah. I cannot wait. And I need it. And listening to, we're going to take a completely different turn here. Listening to Graceland.
Oh my gosh.
Listening to Graceland, listening to the Clips. And then I just got to be really honest with you, because we're friends. As my 3rd album. You know what I've been listening to? I've been listening to Pod Save the World, Pod Save America.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of others. And it's weird when times get like this. I make myself listen to music. So I just name 2 of like the greatest in their genre, like Paul Simon and the Clips, right? As medicine, because I need it, but I find myself just trying to listen to people that can give me some kind of semblance of like sanity and explain some of the things that are happening. And so for my 3rd album, if I may, I named 2 political podcasts.
That's fair. I'll take it. All right, man. Listen, I really appreciate you. This was really fun. Thank you so much.
This is super fun. Thank you.
And
man. Come back anytime.
100%. Thanks again, Marat. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please kindly rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. For more information on how we can help with your legal needs, check out our services at nolanhyman.com.